Alrighty, folks, and welcome back. This is Brian with Foxfire Armory, and today we got a few things we're going to go over here just to kind of set the mood here. We're going to be going over some world events, and we're going to be going over some things that you may or may not have heard about so far. And so we're just going to kind of jump right into this. And the first thing, which it seems like the media has decided to be kind of quiet on, is what's going on in Sri Lanka here. And essentially, the president has fled the country on a military boat over the fact that they haven't been able to get fuel, food costs are rising, and just all the supply chain issues that like we're seeing here in the United States in Sri Lanka are just beyond bad right now. And so they've basically stormed the presidential palace. They've been overturning cars, throwing rocks at politicians, and it has just been one mess after another. So if you haven't, I'll leave links to all these in the description if you want to read through it. But basically, the politics have just gotten really bad, and it's, kind of that old school caste system from the top to the bottom, and the people at the bottom are officially fighting back in Sri Lanka. And this is definitely something to watch here because, as we've talked before, I think it's going to be a lot of microcosms that eventually are going to lead to what is World War III, right? So the fact that this is happening, we're seeing stuff, and we'll be going over here in a minute. We have the war in Ukraine. We've got issues in China right now. We've got this stuff going on in the United States. What's happening in the Netherlands right now. And we'll go over a bunch of this as we move on to the tabs here. But so basically now, obviously, they don't know the location of the president since he's fled the country. And things are just getting really, really bad. It's basically gotten to a point to where, and obviously, like I said, you can read through this fully if you want. They want him to resign. They're hoping he'll resign, and they're hoping that the opposition parties can negotiate over basically creating a new government in the interim before they can hold new elections. And so that's basically what's going on here. So keep your eye on that. With everything going on in the world, it's good to be kind of up to date on what's happening even in some of the smaller countries, because this is the kind of stuff that could spill over into other countries. And if other people are seeing this and they're seeing similar situations, we could be seeing a lot of these kind of sparking. So the next thing we're going to go into is something that I've talked about a little bit here on the channel recently, but the prediction right now is that the housing market, when it does crash, is going to be worse than 2008, as they're saying here. And I forget the guy's name. I never remember it for whatever reason. But the guy from the movie The Big Short, from the story that the movie was actually based on, is predicting that when the housing market crashes here, and he's expecting sometime either end of 2022 here or early 2023, he's predicting the crash is going to be worse than what we saw in 2008. So for those of you who remember the crash in 2008 like I do, it was bad. And he's predicting much, much worse. And, this is basically it, right? So you have soaring home prices. You've got mortgage rates now going up because the Fed has had to raise interest rates because of printing money, and record high inflation, right? So all those things combined is basically making it A, impossible for people to get homes, B, afford the homes, and C, the fact that the people who can get the homes are eventually going to be going delinquent on these mortgages when the housing market does crash, which is probably why he's predicting that it's going to be worse than 2008, right? So that was back what they called the Great Recession. I think this time is going to be much, much worse. And I don't know. Time will tell, right? We'll see. There's a lot of homes on the market. I know by me, there's a lot of homes that are for sale that are way, way, way more expensive than I would have predicted them to be. And again, I'll let you read through this. Everyone's got their opinion on it, but here's one right here. The CEO of National Association of Home Builders, and they don't think that the values of the homes are going to go down, but the reality is people can't afford them. So the only people who are going to be buying them, like we've talked about before, is going to be your hedge funds like BlackRock, Blackstone, that are essentially buying these homes to then eventually rent them out. And that's really all I got on that. It's just keep an eye on it. Pay down your debts. Make sure that you're not carrying debt on credit cards if you can. That's going to be a huge thing moving forward here. Really start growing your own food at home if you can. And like I said, I'm going to continually be adding things to the Amazon shop. And if there's anything on there that you guys need or see, Amazon seems to be the cheapest for a lot of these things, and some of the harder to find things, unfortunately, are only available on Amazon. They just don't have them in some of the stores. So really working on getting all your debt paid off and becoming a little more self-reliant is going to be huge here. And so the next thing that kind of leads me into is what we've been seeing, or for those of us who've seen it, the Dutch farmers. So over in the Netherlands and that general area, the farmers have basically been they've been blockading highways. I actually didn't look through this one. Yeah, here you go. So you can see, it is just tractors, and then blockades for miles. And it's basically because the government is trying to claim that there's some climate crisis going on, and they want the farms to basically shut down. Now, to me, that is nonsensical, right? The farmers produce food. They produce food for all the citizens to eat, and the government is trying to claim that because of the fact that they are farming, that they're creating some climate crisis. I don't get it. It really just boggles my mind, and I really don't understand it, and it makes absolutely no sense why the government would try to shut down these farmers and have them stop producing food. It just is insane to me. So you'll see it's basically they've been blocking off like the border by Germany, which is terrible for Germany because, as we know, with the war in Ukraine, Russia has shut off natural gas to Germany, which is basically what they fueled their entire electric system with. So things are just really not good for Germany right now. And this kind of stuff is just going to continually make it worse. So you can see there's riots, obviously, from COVID measures still, and they're basically continuing to protest. And here you go. This should tell you $97 billion in 2020 worth of fruit, flowers, vegetables, dairy products, and meat. Those are essentially the key staples in your everyday diet. And that is what the government is saying these farmers can't produce because of, you bet, climate change, right? It's just insane. It's ridiculous. And I don't see this getting any better. And again, like we talked about before, microcosms, right? This is another one of those things. These protests can lead to riots. We've seen the police trying to come out and stop them, tow these tractor trailers and tractors that they have out there. And what ends up happening, the tractors just push these big vehicles away, like off to the side that the police are trying to use. And so it's getting kind of crazy. So I would definitely keep your eye on this. I think things are going to escalate until they eventually either pop over there or the government over there kind of comes to their senses and realizes how dumb they are being by trying to stop farmers from farming. Now, this was an interesting one. So the former Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, who obviously was good friends with Trump when Trump was president, was actually just assassinated in Japan. And for those of you who don't know, Japan has some of the strictest gun control in the world. They basically have outlawed and banned guns. So you would ask yourself, how is something like this possible if they've banned guns and they have some of the strictest, toughest gun control in the world? Well, we'll see if they have any. I'm assuming they don't. Yep, they don't have any photos of it. But essentially what ended up happening is a citizen made a dual pipe shotgun, like a hand, basically like a handgun that was about that big, and it was double barrel, 2 pieces of pipe to fire shotgun shells, and that's what he used to assassinate Mr. Shinzo Abe. And if this isn't just the prime example of, criminals, whatever, whomever, people who are intent on doing evil are going to do evil. And this is just proof in the pudding, right? There's no such thing as gun control that's going to work for criminals or for an element that wants to commit evil. There isn't. This is it right there, right? It's literally telling you that it can't be done, right? There's just no way to stop evil without doing something evil to stop that evil, right? And that's a mindset shift for a lot of people, right? Is being able to put yourself in that mindset. If someone's about to do evil to you, whether that's a shooter, someone with a knife, someone looking to just beat you, right, with their hands and fists, because those are used more often than not in majority of killings in this country, specifically in the United States. So you have to kind of shift to a mindset that your life is more valuable than the person forfeiting their life to attack you, right? And it's definitely difficult for some people, but the crazier things get out there, the world is essentially devolving into chaos right now. And, this is not to be doom and gloom, and I know it kind of comes off doom and gloom a lot, but really it's just, I want to make sure that those of you who actually take the time to watch these videos are prepared for what's coming and are up to date with the things that are happening that could affect your day-to-day life. Not to mention, could help in the future to kind of move you along and get you into a mindset that might be there when you need it, right? And that's really all we're trying to do here. Kind of like I said in the video last time, let's make a mag, right? Is not necessarily like we're going to meet up, if SHTF does happen, but no, like let's bring resources together. Let's really try to work to build a community where, we can have people all over the world coming together and really working towards that self-sufficiency, right? Being self-reliant and really just working together to build a better world, right? And that's ultimately what we all should be trying to do. So that'll lead us into good old Ukraine war. That seems to be just droning on and on and on. But Germany currently fears that Russia will permanently just cut off natural gas supply, right? So that was the Nord Stream pipeline that basically Biden killed the Keystone pipeline here in the United States to allow the Nord Stream pipeline to go through from Germany and Russia. And as we're seeing, that obviously only played well for, you guessed it, Russia. So Germany now has basically had it completely cut off. All their natural gas is cut off. A lot of their actual petroleum supplies are now dwindling, and they're not getting as much petroleum in. Another thing which I didn't pull up because I couldn't find a good article about it, but basically Saudi Arabia is running low on their strategic petroleum reserves, and they are cranking out petro as much as they can. The problem is they can't keep up with the demand right now, and that ultimately is going to lead to everyone worldwide depleting a lot of their resources. And we've seen a little bit drop in fuel prices as of late, but that is not going to last long. It really isn't, as we keep burning through a lot of these resources as things like the war in Ukraine continue. It's inevitable, right? Prices are going to get really bad. Things are going to get very bad for a lot of people. And yeah, it just kind of is what it is, unfortunately, at this point. And, until we can get some semblance of a coherent government across the world, coming together and not doing stupid stuff like they are, this is just going to be the new norm. And I don't like to use that phrase, the new normal, but this is basically the new normal, right? We're headed towards SHTF. And so the last thing that I found kind of interesting here was basically right now And you can see it says security forces in China attack protesters seeking frozen funds. Well, this is interesting because we've been talking about that with the printing of the money in the Fed and the possibility for bank runs here. And essentially a bank run is people running to the bank and pulling their money out because they're afraid they're going to lose it to basically the ether, and having physical currency versus like your debit card, right? We've seen it. I believe Canada actually just had some issues. I think Canadian Prepper was talking about it, where the payment processing systems basically just went down. They completely went down for a large portion of the country. Granted, that was briefly, but you know, if those things continue and they get worse, we could see bank runs. Well, whatever happened here, I'll let you guys read through it, but it looks like there's some sort of scandal that happened, and people who were depositing into these banks have basically lost all their life savings. And so they are basically running on the banks, and they're trying to figure out a way for them to get their money back. But I don't think we're going to see it, right? Communist China is just not going to give the money back to these people. At this point, it's probably gone and it's never coming back. And, you know, it's weird stuff like this that it's interesting to me, because the facade that China likes to put up is that they're doing so well, and obviously we buy a ton of stuff from China, and we've propped up the Chinese economy for decades now. And to see stuff like this doesn't really instill a lot of faith in the future for the world economy, right? If this can happen in China, what's to say it can't happen here in the United States if things continue down the path that it's been going down? And, you know, they're demanding to get their money back, and they're being shut down by the, you know, Chinese. And so here's the thing, right? Supposedly, they're guaranteed up to 500,000 Chinese yuan, which is about $74,500 US. And they're saying that basically that money is essentially gone, and it's essentially not insured anymore for whatever reason, right? They're saying that it is, but it's not. And so these people can't get their money. And so they're getting kind of desperate, right? And I have a feeling we're going to see some more protests like this. But again, we'll talk about it probably coming up here. Continued microcosms, right? It is what it is, and this is where we're at. So I'm going to leave it there for you guys today. And so, as always, this is Brian with Fox Fire Armory. Until next time.